Understanding the feeling of chaos. When life feels unsettled, it can seem as though the world moves faster than your ability to respond. News cycles shift without pause, and demands compete for your attention. In these moments, the idea of personal direction can feel distant. Many people begin to believe they are shaped entirely by forces outside their control. This belief grows quietly when responsibilities increase and uncertainty rises. It becomes easy to assume your character is fixed by circumstance. Yet a deeper view shows something different. Within every person, there is a steady capacity to respond rather than react. Notice how a calm stretch of coastline still holds its shape despite shifting tides. That same steady potential exists within you. You are not defined by noise or pace. You can meet each moment with clarity. This episode explores how to cultivate virtue even when the world feels unsettled. How determinism limits inner freedom. Determinism suggests your choices are produced by forces you cannot influence. It can feel comforting because it removes responsibility. When faced with frustration, it becomes easy to say your habits or upbringing caused everything. This mindset encourages a subtle surrender. If everything is caused by something else, you may believe effort has little meaning. Yet this view misses the depth of human agency. Consider a stretch of open plain where shifting winds move across the surface. The terrain remains constant even as conditions change. Your inner character has the same potential for stability. Moments do not control you. You choose the interpretation you give them. Determinism narrows perspective by suggesting identity is fixed. The truth is more expansive. You can cultivate judgment. You can strengthen discipline. You can shape the direction of your life through steady practice. Virtue becomes possible when you recognize this freedom. Why powerlessness feels so common? Many people sense powerlessness without naming it. They absorb information from every direction and begin to feel carried by events. When society moves quickly, it is tempting to assume you have no meaningful influence on your inner state. This quiet resignation grows when external noise increases. Yet beneath this surface, there is a deeper truth. Human beings hold an inherent capacity for direction. Observe a broad desert where patterns form over long stretches of time. Though winds shift daily, the deeper contour remains guided by steady natural laws. In the same way, your choices create underlying structure. Powerlessness fades when you recognize the influence you have on your responses. You can choose patience. You can choose clarity. You can choose the next small action that strengthens character. This series invites you to return to that inner capability and rebuild purpose with calm intention. If this journey supports your growth, consider subscribing. It helps us continue creating thoughtful episodes for your development. Hobbes and the mechanistic view. The rise of determinism did not begin with modern technology. Earlier thinkers shaped it through explanations of human behavior based entirely on physical causes. One of the most influential voices was Thomas Hobbes. He described the world as a system governed by motion and reaction. In his framework, thoughts and intentions were the result of material forces. This perspective offered clarity during turbulent times, but left little room for moral responsibility. It suggested human beings followed a predetermined sequence of events. Notice a silent mountain range absorbing shifting weather without losing its steady form. This shows how structure can exist independent of passing conditions. Hobbes' vision overlooked this inner stability within the human mind. While physical causes influence experience, they do not exhaust its meaning. You still hold the ability to interpret, evaluate, and choose. This ability forms the foundation of virtue. The Cambridge Platonists' alternative. During periods of political conflict and rapid intellectual change, a group of scholars began offering a counterpoint to mechanistic thinking. They believed human beings held a rational capacity that could not be reduced to physical forces. These thinkers valued reason and saw it as a path toward clarity. Their work challenged the idea that character is a mere product of circumstance. Consider a broad meadow, adjusting gently to each season. Though conditions change, the field's underlying rhythm remains steady. The Cambridge Platonists believed the human soul followed a similar pattern. It carried a built-in orientation toward goodness. Their ideas restored space for moral growth. They argued that freedom was not something granted by conditions, but something awakened through thoughtful practice. This perspective shaped a new understanding of virtue as an active process rather than a predetermined outcome. Cudworth's vision of moral reality. Ralph Cudworth sought to defend the deeper structure of moral truth. He believed that principles such as kindness and justice were not preferences but realities woven into existence. His work pushed back against the notion that all behavior is produced by external causes. Cudworth argued that human beings carry a rational core capable of aligning with enduring moral truths. Observe how the steady rhythm of ocean waves reveals consistent patterns despite constant movement. The presence of pattern does not depend on perfect conditions. It emerges from deeper order. Cudworth believed virtue followed a similar path. When you choose clarity over impulse, you align yourself with this deeper structure. His philosophy emphasized the possibility of deliberate growth. You are not locked into initial tendencies. Through intention, you can shape the direction of your character with quiet strength. Introducing the idea of inner plasticity. Cudworth described a formative principle within the world that directed things toward order. He called this principle plastic nature. He believed it represented an active, purposeful influence guiding development. When he turned this idea inward, he suggested every person carries a similar power. This inner plasticity represents your ability to shape your moral direction through choice. It is not fixed by past experiences. Notice a calm river that adapts to new channels carved by steady flow. Over time, the water creates new paths without sudden force. Inner plasticity works in the same way. Small shifts in judgment create new patterns in behavior. When you choose intention over impulse, you influence the direction of your character. Plasticity means virtue is not a distant ideal, but an ongoing process you engage with each day. Freedom as a daily expectation. Inner freedom is often imagined as a rare or dramatic event. In truth, it arises from repeated choices. When you recognize your ability to shape your responses, you begin to experience a quiet steadiness. Determinism loses its influence when you accept the responsibility to choose. Consider how a wide forest canopy absorbs changes in weather, yet maintains its overall balance. The forest's resilience comes from the strength of its interconnected parts. Your character develops the same way. Moments of patience strengthen your stability. Moments of restraint reinforce your clarity. Freedom becomes a practice rather than an abstract idea. Each day offers opportunities to confirm the direction you wish to take. Through steady decisions, you cultivate the inner structure that supports virtue. The discipline of clear seeing. The first discipline involves recognizing your patterns with honesty. Clear seeing allows you to distinguish between reactions formed by habit and actions formed by intention. Observe a still lake reflecting surrounding shapes with accuracy. Its surface shows detail when undisturbed. Your mind works the same way when you pause to examine your choices. At the end of each day, reflect on the moments when impulse guided you. Identify the judgments that influenced those moments. This is not criticism, it is clarity. When you understand your tendencies, you gain the ability to redirect them. Clear seeing lays the foundation for change. Without awareness, virtue becomes guesswork. With awareness, it becomes a deliberate practice rooted in insight rather than assumption. The discipline of steady interpretation. Once you recognize your patterns, the next step is guiding your judgments. Steady interpretation helps you respond thoughtfully rather than react instinctively. Notice how a curving shoreline redirects the movement of water with gentle influence. Your judgments shape emotional responses in a similar way. Between any event and your reaction, there is a moment of choice. In that moment, you can evaluate whether your interpretation aligns with your values. Ask whether a feeling contributes to your growth. Ask whether your response reflects the person you want to become. When you adopt this approach, moments slow down. You gain room to choose clarity. Each small act of interpretation strengthens your inner direction. Over time, these choices guide your character toward steadiness and purpose. The discipline of intentional growth. Virtue becomes part of your character through repeated action. Intentional growth focuses on small steps rather than dramatic changes. Picture a tree extending new branches during each season. Growth is steady and cumulative. Your moral development follows the same trajectory. Each time you choose patience, you reinforce the pattern. Each time you choose honesty, you strengthen your foundation. Start with actions that are achievable. Offer attention when speaking with someone. Pause before responding to irritation. Acknowledge moments when you could contribute something helpful. These small practices accumulate. Over time, they shape the direction of your life. Intentional growth is not pressure, it is consistency. It allows you to build a stable character rooted in repeated choices that align with your values. How inner plasticity creates long-term change. Small choices create lasting transformation when repeated over time. This is how inner plasticity functions. It allows new patterns to become natural. Consider a hillside shaped by steady rainfall. The changes occur slowly, yet produce lasting form. Your inner world adapts in similar ways. When you apply the three disciplines regularly, your patterns shift. Reactions become calmer. Judgment becomes clearer. Purpose becomes more reliable. Long-term change happens when you replace old habits with new ones through simple, consistent actions. Inner plasticity means you are not confined to past behavior. You can choose a direction that reflects your deeper values. With patience and repetition, your character aligns with the person you want to become. Why virtue requires daily practice. Virtue is not an achievement. It is a rhythm developed over time. Daily practice ensures your direction remains steady even when external conditions shift. Notice how a stable valley holds moisture from each rainfall and channels it toward deeper growth. Each daily action you take becomes part of your internal reservoir. When challenges arise, you draw strength from this stored clarity. Virtue becomes easier when you practice consistently. You recognize your patterns more quickly. You respond with greater intention. Daily practice is how you confirm your freedom. You are not shaped by the world. You shape your response to it. Each day reinforces this truth. Why the world's noise does not define you. The world carries its own rhythm. Events can feel rapid and unpredictable, yet they do not dictate your character. You determine how you interpret and respond to them. Consider a quiet cliffside, remaining steady as waves move below. The movement does not alter the foundation. In the same way, external noise does not define your inner direction. When you recognize this separation, you gain a clear vantage point. You realize your stability is not dependent on ideal conditions. You hold the freedom to choose patience, integrity, and purpose, even when circumstances feel unsettled. This recognition strengthens your confidence in your own agency. How to resist the pull of impulse. Modern life encourages immediate reactions. Notifications, comments, and interactions create constant invitations to respond quickly. Yet impulse rarely aligns with your deeper values. Notice how a riverbank maintains structure even as water presses against it with changing force. Your values serve as this boundary. When an impulse arises, pause and acknowledge it without following it. Then bring attention to the direction you want to take. This pause creates space for intention. You confirm your agency through each deliberate choice. Over time, your impulses lose urgency. Your responses become calmer and more measured. This is how virtue grows. Building clarity in confusing times. Clarity emerges when you understand your priorities. Confusing periods make this difficult because attention is pulled in many directions. Yet clarity can be rebuilt through slow, steady reflection. Consider a field after rainfall, where small streams begin forming new paths. Over time, the water gathers into clear channels. Your mind works similarly. When you reflect on what matters, you create channels for thought. Distractions become easier to ignore. Choices become less burdensome. Clarity is not found by controlling every outcome. It appears when your values shape your direction. This approach supports steadiness even when conditions remain uncertain. Returning to inner freedom. Inner freedom is the capacity to choose your response regardless of circumstance. It does not rely on perfect conditions or ideal timing. Freedom emerges from disciplined attention. Observe how a distant horizon expands as you move toward higher ground. With each step, your perspective widens. Inner freedom works in the same way. When you practice clear seeing, steady interpretation, and intentional growth, you rise above reactive patterns. Your perspective shifts from immediate emotion to deeper purpose. Freedom becomes part of your identity rather than a distant ideal. Integrating virtue into everyday life. Virtue becomes meaningful when applied to daily situations. You strengthen character through small choices. Notice how a coastline develops unique contours from repeated contact with gentle currents. Each interaction shapes its form. Your behaviors shape your direction the same way. Speak with honesty even when convenience suggests otherwise. Hold patience during minor frustrations. Offer kindness when it requires small effort. These actions reinforce your values. Over time, virtue becomes a reliable part of your identity. You begin to trust your own judgment. This integration makes virtue practical rather than theoretical. It becomes the guiding structure of your day. Why your character is always in motion. Character is dynamic. It evolves through your choices. Even when you feel still, your patterns shift. Consider how a landscape changes gradually through seasons. Growth is constant, even when unnoticed. Your character develops in the same way. Each action contributes to your direction. This realization brings both responsibility and hope. Responsibility because your choices matter. Hope because your future is not fixed. You can adjust your path at any moment through intention. When you embrace this truth, you begin shaping your life with greater purpose, becoming the architect of your inner direction. Your life is shaped not by external chaos, but by the choices you make each day. Inner plasticity gives you the capacity to shape your character through intention. Notice how a sunrise gradually expands light across open terrain. The change is steady and dependable. Your growth follows the same rhythm. When you cultivate clarity, interpretation, and action, you strengthen your direction. You become a person guided by purpose rather than impulse. As this episode ends, consider supporting the channel if these ideas help your development. Your presence in this community matters. Tomorrow offers another opportunity to practice virtue with calm intention. Carry this steadiness forward and let each small choice guide you toward the life you want to build.